I never thought I'd end up hitchhiking on a Tuesday afternoon, but life has a way of stripping away your plans and leaving you standing on the side of a highway with nothing but a backpack and a dying phone battery. My car had broken down about 40 miles back, in the kind of nowhere town where the mechanic takes one look at your engine and shakes his head like he's delivering a terminal diagnosis. 3 days minimum, he'd said. Maybe 4. I didn't have 3 days. I had a job interview in Denver that could change everything, and it was happening tomorrow morning, whether I was there or not. So there I was, thumb out, watching 18-wheelers blast past me in clouds of dust and diesel fumes, each one feeling like another door slamming in my face. I'd been standing there for almost an hour, my shirt sticking to my back in the afternoon heat, when I finally heard the hiss of air brakes and saw the massive rig pulling onto the shoulder ahead of me. The truck was one of those long-haul beasts, dark blue cab with chrome that caught the sunlight, pulling a trailer that seemed to stretch halfway to the horizon. I grabbed my bag and jogged toward it, my heart doing this weird stutter-step thing in my chest that I told myself was just from the sudden movement, not nerves. The passenger door swung open as I approached, and I looked up into the cab at the man who'd stopped for me. He was maybe 10 years older than me, early 40s if I had to guess, with the kind of weathered handsomeness that comes from years of sun and wind. Dark hair going silver at the temples, strong jaw shadowed with a few days of stubble, and these eyes that were somewhere between grey and blue, like storm clouds over the ocean. He wore a faded flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that were tanned and muscular, the kind of arms that came from actually using them, not from a gym. "Where you headed?" His voice was deep, rough around the edges like gravel under tires, but there was something warm in it too. "Denver," I said, trying not to sound as desperate as I felt. "Or anywhere in that direction, really. I'm not picky." He studied me for a moment, those storm cloud eyes taking in my rumpled clothes, my oversized backpack, probably the exhaustion written all over my face. Then he nodded once. "Denver's on my route. Climb on up." The cab smelled like coffee and leather and something else. Something indefinably masculine that made my stomach do a little flip. I absolutely did not want to examine too closely. I settled into the passenger seat, which was surprisingly comfortable, and he pulled back onto the highway with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this 10,000 times before. "Name's Marcus," he said, not taking his eyes off the road. "You got a name? Or should I just call you Lucky?" "Jake," I replied, and then, because I was curious, "Why Lucky?" "Because I don't usually stop for hitchhikers. Something about you standing there made me hit the brakes." He glanced at me briefly, and there was something in that look that made my skin warm. "Guess we'll see if it was luck or something else." We fell into an easy silence after that, the kind that doesn't feel awkward or forced. I watched the landscape roll by outside the window, endless stretches of highway cutting through plains and hills, the world reduced to asphalt and sky. Marcus drove with one hand on the wheel, relaxed and confident, occasionally reaching for the coffee cup in his holder or adjusting the radio to find a station that wasn't pure static. "So what's in Denver?" he asked after maybe 20 minutes. "Job? Girl? Running from something?" I laughed, but it came out more bitter than I intended. "Job interview. Had a car, had a plan, had everything figured out. Then the universe decided to remind me that nothing's ever actually figured out." "That's the truth," Marcus said. "I've been driving these routes for 15 years, and the one thing I've learned is that the road's always got a surprise waiting for you. Some good, some bad, most somewhere in between." "What made you become a trucker?" I asked, genuinely curious. There was something about him that seemed too thoughtful, too present, for someone just passing through life behind a windshield. He was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I'd overstepped, asked something too personal for a stranger in his cab. But then he spoke, his voice softer than before. "I needed to disappear for a while. This seemed like a good way to do it. You can lose yourself out here on the road. Become someone new with every mile marker. No one knows your history, your mistakes, the person you used to be. You're just the guy behind the wheel, moving forward, always moving forward. There was weight in those words, something heavy and unspoken, and I felt it settle in the space between us like a third presence. Did you find what you were looking for? I asked quietly. Out here on the road. Marcus smiled, but it was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. I found peace. Not happiness, exactly, but peace. Learned to be okay with who I am, even if the world I left behind never would be. I understood then, or thought I did, the way he'd looked at me, the careful distance he maintained even as he invited me into his space, the years of driving alone, choosing solitude over the complications of connection. I recognized it because I'd been doing the same thing, in my own way, running from interview to interview, city to city, never staying anywhere long enough for anyone to really see me. I get that, I said and meant it. The running, the hiding. Easier to keep moving than to stand still and let people see the real you. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something shifted in the cab. The air felt thicker, charged with recognition and possibility. How old are you, Jake? 28. Why? Just wondering if you've been running as long as I have, or if you've still got time to stop. The sun was starting to sink lower on the horizon, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Marcus said we'd need to stop for the night in a few hours, that there was a truck stop he always used, decent food and clean showers. I nodded, trying not to think about what the night might bring, what it might mean to share a space with this man who seemed to see right through all my carefully constructed walls. We talked more as the miles disappeared beneath us. He told me about the places he'd been, the things he'd seen from his cab. The northern lights in Montana, a tornado that passed so close he could feel the pull of it, a family of deer that crossed the highway at dawn like ghosts. I told him about my life, or what passed for one, the degree I'd finished but never used, the jobs I'd taken and left, the relationships I'd started and sabotaged, always finding a reason to leave before anyone could leave me first. You're scared, Marcus said, and it wasn't a question. Of what? Of staying, of being seen, of finding something real and having to admit you want it. His words hit me like a physical thing, stealing my breath. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not. But I know that look in your eyes because I see it in my mirror every morning. That look that says you're always ready to bolt, always keeping one foot out the door. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't. Because he wasn't wrong. He'd seen in a few hours what most people never saw about me at all. The truck stop appeared like an oasis in the growing darkness, a constellation of lights and movement in the empty plains. Marcus parked in the lot designated for big rigs, and we climbed down from the cab, my legs stiff from hours of sitting. The air was cooler now, carrying the smell of diesel and fried food and possibility. I've got a sleeper berth in the cab, Marcus said, not quite meeting my eyes. You can crash there if you want. I'll grab a shower and some food, give you space to settle in. The sleeper berth was bigger than I expected. A small compartment behind the front seats with an actual mattress, storage compartments, even a small TV. It was neat, organized, surprisingly cozy. I sat on the edge of the bed, my backpack at my feet, and tried to understand what was happening, what I was feeling. Marcus returned an hour later, his hair damp from the shower, wearing clean clothes that smelled like detergent and soap. He'd brought food, burgers and fries from the truck stop diner, and we ate sitting across from each other in that small space, our knees almost touching. Tell me about the interview, he said between bites. What's the job? Marketing position for a tech startup. Good salary, benefits, the whole corporate package. It's exactly the kind of stable, respectable job I should want. But you don't want it. I set down my burger, suddenly not hungry. I don't know what I want. That's the problem. I've spent so long running, so long pretending to be whatever version of myself seems safest, that I'm not sure there's a real me underneath all the masks anymore. Marcus reached across the small space and took my hand. His palm was rough, calloused, warm. There's a real you. I can see him. He's the guy who took a chance on a stranger's truck, who told the truth when he could have lied. Who's sitting here right now, scared out of his mind but still present, still here. My throat felt tight. Marcus, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I, he said softly. But the road feels shorter with you in the cab. Feels less lonely, and I haven't felt that in a very long time. He leaned forward, and I met him halfway. And when our lips touched, it was like something in me finally clicked into place. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative. Two people who'd forgotten how to let someone in. But then it deepened, became urgent. All the loneliness and longing of years pouring into that connection. We pulled apart, breathing hard, foreheads resting against each other. I have to be in Denver tomorrow, I whispered. I know. This could just be tonight. Just this moment. I know that too. But neither of us moved away. Instead, Marcus cupped my face in his hands, those storm cloud eyes searching mine. Or it could be the start of something. You could skip the interview. Come with me on the road for a while. See where it goes. That's crazy, I said, but my heart was racing. Maybe. But what's crazier? Taking a chance on something real, or spending another 10 years running from it? I thought about Denver, about the interview, about the life I'd been chasing that never quite felt like mine. And I thought about the road, about this man who'd seen me in a way no one else had, about the possibility of finding myself in the last place I'd expected. The road feels shorter with you in the cab, I repeated his words back to him. What does that mean? Marcus smiled, and this time it wasn't sad. It means the miles don't feel as long. The silence doesn't feel as empty. It means for the first time in 15 years, I'm not disappearing. I'm arriving. We stayed up talking through the night, sharing stories and fears and dreams in that small sleeper berth while the truck stop hummed with activity around us. He told me about the man he'd been before, the life he'd left behind in a small town that couldn't accept him. I told him about my own fears, my own struggles to be authentic in a world that seemed to demand conformity. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I made my decision. I pulled out my phone, found the email with the interview details, and typed out a message declining the position. My hand only shook a little as I hit send. You sure about this? Marcus asked, watching me. No, I admitted. I'm terrified. But I'm tired of being sure about things that make me miserable. Maybe it's time to be uncertain about something that makes me happy. He kissed me again, softer this time, like a promise. So where do you want to go? Anywhere. Everywhere. Wherever the road takes us. Marcus started the engine, and the truck rumbled to life beneath us. As we pulled back onto the highway, the sun rising ahead of us, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Possibility. The sense that maybe, just maybe, I was finally moving towards something instead of away from it. Hey, Marcus, I said as we merged into traffic. Yeah? Thank you for stopping, for seeing me standing there and hitting the brakes. He reached over and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. Thank you for climbing up. for taking the chance. The road stretched out before us, endless and full of promise. I didn't know where we were going. Not really. Didn't know if this thing between us would last a week or a lifetime. But for the first time in my life, I was okay with not knowing. I was okay with just being here, in this moment, with this man who'd offered me not just a ride, but a chance to stop running. We drove through the morning and into the afternoon, talking and laughing and falling into comfortable silences. Marcus taught me about the truck, about reading the road, about the secret language of truckers on the CB radio. I told him about the books I'd read, the places I'd dreamed of seeing, the person I hoped I might become, if I could just stop being afraid. Somewhere in Wyoming, with the mountains rising in the distance, and the sky so blue it hurt to look at, Marcus said, "You know what's funny? I've driven this route 100 times. Same roads, same stops, same everything. But today, right now, it all looks different. New, like I'm seeing it for the first time." I squeezed his hand, understanding exactly what he meant. The road feels shorter. Yeah, he smiled. The road feels shorter. And as we drove on, two men in a truck cab, heading toward a future we couldn't predict, I realized that sometimes the best journeys aren't about the destination at all. Sometimes they're about finding someone who makes the miles in between feel like home. Sometimes they're about having the courage to climb into a stranger's truck and trust that the road will take you exactly where you need to go. The sun was setting again as we crossed into Colorado, and I knew that tomorrow would bring new roads, new challenges, new uncertainties. But tonight, right now, I was exactly where I needed to be. In a truck cab with a man who saw me, really saw me, and chose to stop anyway. "Hey, Jake," Marcus said as the last light faded from the sky. "Yeah? I'm glad you were standing on that highway. I'm glad I stopped." "Me too," I said, and meant it with every fiber of my being. "Me too." The road stretched on into the darkness, but we weren't alone anymore. We had each other, and somehow, that made all the difference. The miles didn't feel as long. The night didn't feel as empty. And for two men who'd spent years running from themselves, we'd finally found a reason to stop. Not a destination, not an ending, but a beginning. Born on a highway in the middle of nowhere, between a trucker and a hitchhiker, who both needed to learn that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone see you, scars and all, and believe them when they say the journey's better with you in it.